instead of asking, she was asking me.
And so Larry was like,
Last time I checked, I had 69 on you.
Who's getting this from?
Jerry Thompson, who lives out in the valley. I don't know if you know him, but he's been just a friend of mine forever. He's the kind of person who's done anything done professionally. He has to be
Cheers and
and he does it, you know, he doesn't think it's hard to make it.
the podium break.
And so he has, cancer.
I will.
So his chemo, we just got over, just finished his chemo, and tomorrow he's going And so Larry.
Do we know where we're going to be holding that yet?
Larry can go see his mother.
June 14th.
Where?
I may go down there when he goes to Kurt's house. Larry goes to his show.
Okay then.
Yeah, yeah.
It's crazy. You're sitting right here. Didn't look all. They want you to Patriot flag. Absolutely, yes.
Call this meeting to order. Ask everyone to stand for the pledge of allegiance. And Troop 229 is going to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if you care to participate in the invocation, please remain standing. I'm sorry, we're going to have the invocation by Miss Mary Kay Sherry.
Our dear Father in heaven, we, a few of the residents of this beautiful city of 29 Palms, come to thee at the beginning of the city council meeting. We're grateful for the opportunity that we have to be here this evening, and we pray for your blessings upon us. Father, we pray that thou will watch over those who have been elected to serve this fine community. Help them as they work together to guide and direct the affairs of the city, and help them to make wise decisions in all that they do. We pray, Father, for thy Spirit to be with us this night. Be with those who will be speaking and expressing their concerns and challenges and the good things, that they might do so in a respectful and kind manner. And we pray for these things humbly in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Roll call.
Councilmember Scott.
Aye.
Councilmember Mintz.
Here.
Councilmember Klink.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Bildering.
Here.
Mayor Wright.
Here.
All present.
Okay, no closed session announcements. Any changes to the agenda? None. Announcements. These proceedings may be viewed on demand on the City of 29 Palms website at www.29palms.org. You may also live stream this meeting by going on our website and clicking on the meeting agendas link. Awards, presentation, appointments, and proclamations. First, we have a proclamation recognizing May 2023 as California Tourism Month. Whereas tourism plays a critical role in the city of 29 Palms and the state economic prosperity, and whereas a robust travel industry provides significant economic benefits for the entire state, generating more than $134.7 billion in visitor spending in 2022. And whereas in the city of 29 Palms, tourism generated more than 60% of the $2.1 million in transient occupancy tax revenue and supported over 300 jobs in 2022. Whereas the COVID-19 pandemic devastated every sector of the travel industry with staggering economic impacts affecting every community in California, including the city of 29 Palms. And whereas California's tourism industry resilience has brought the economic impact of travel more than 90% back to pre-pandemic levels in 2022. And whereas the California legislature in 2016 declared every May as California Tourism Month to celebrate the positive economic impact of the tourism in California. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of 29 Palms does hereby proclaim May 2023 as Tourism Month and urges the residents of 29 Palms to join me in recognizing the critical role this industry plays in our city. Dated this 23rd day of May 2023, is signed by me. And Brianne here?
Yeah, no one's here to see it.
Okay. All right. Presentation to 29 Palms High School Interact Club and Boy Scout Troop 229 for their participation in Cash for Trash and Recycling Program.
Interact Club, where you at? Come on up. Don't be scared. Come on. This is your time. All right, so I know you guys picked up some trash to make our city beautiful. Can you please tell us where you picked this trash and how many bags?
We had about 8 to 10 bags at the Circle K on Highway 62, and it took us about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and that was one of the biggest lots that we had in the past year, like after COVID. And we had a lot of new members participating in this Trash for Cash event, and we recently elected our new officers, and I have 2 new officers of the Interact Club here today, and so I just wanted to kind of get them to know this environment and give them a warm welcome to the City Council.
Thank you.
So on behalf of the City of 20 Palms, thank you for what you've done to make your city beautiful. And also, here's something from Burtech, also thanking you for helping keep the city clean.
Thank you so
You
much.
stand over here, we're gonna get a good picture of everybody. All your hard work. Leanne, smile. Thank you so much. Troop 229.
Sir.
You guys ready? Ready to talk about what you picked up? He's all ready. You didn't get your public speaking patch yet? All right, let's go. All right, let's go. Go ahead. Where you picked up and how much you picked up?
Did we pick up?
Where?
Yeah, I don't
We picked up a lot behind the post office diagonally.
Oh,
Behind the post office.
We cleaned up a lot that was diagonally behind from the post office. We got, what, 8, 9 bags?
I would say
Something
between
like
7 and
that.
10.
Between 7 and 10 bags of trash from that lot.
Which is 8, 9, you're right.
Yeah, okay. One of them.
That it?
Yeah, that's
All right.
what we did.
I'll slow this down for you. All right. So on behalf of the city, thank you for keeping the city clean and beautiful. And on behalf of Burtech, also check. Thank you for everything you do, and not just the trash you do, but everything you do as Boy Scouts and as you go on to be future leaders of America. We thank you for that too. Thank you. Take some pictures. We don't put it on Facebook; it never happened, right? We gotta post it. Yeah. Look at the tall guy in the middle. All right. Let's take a picture. We gotta post it for it's real. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Okay, next we have council comments and reports of meetings attended. We'll start with Mr. Octavius.
Thank you. I actually met with the Interact Club And so I'm really excited about our future plans and hope to move things forward with them.
Thank you. Danny?
Thank you, Mr. Barron. Went to the ribbon cutting at the, right down here, half a block away to the our new walk and bike trail. I already had a few folks text me and said it's a great addition to the city, and they're hoping we get more. And obviously, we're also hoping that's part of the master plan. So we're hoping also to get more areas that we can put that in with the with grant money. So we're working on that constantly. So just as long as you know, we are working on that as we speak. Went to the city county conference in Lake Arrowhead on Thursday and Friday. It was quite interesting this year. A couple of good speakers, but we also got to interact with some of the other council members. But it was one of the things that they had a panel of all four. There was four of them because the person who was moderating he was also a former assemblyman, and there was a former senator up there, former assemblymen, and they all could speak very frankly because none of them said they were going to run again at any time in the future. So they all spoke their minds. In fact, it'd be the first time that I heard a public cussing because they didn't care. And they basically said that because they're not ever running again. So it was kind of comical, and everybody was just looking at each other because we don't conduct ourselves in meetings. But anything, one of them said something very interesting about who's running Sacramento. And they said basically the Assembly and the Senate are giving way too much power to the governor because they're pushing everything off to these committees in these commissions and letting them vote on them on how they're gonna run the state in some areas. And the governor appoints every single one of the people on the commission. So that's something in the future that's really gonna have to be looked at because it could be just a one-man show if it continues the way it is. So it was an interesting talk. Listen to those guys actually talk frank. So anyway, that's all I have. Thank you.
Joe?
Thank you, Mayor. I also went to the ribbon cutting ceremony for the trail. We even had a lady walk in the other direction coming towards us before we even did the ribbon cutting. So she was kind of trespassing, I guess, on that trail. No. She really likes it. She really likes it. I too went to the city council, county. I did the same thing, Danny, you did the other day. City, county conference, and like you said, very good speakers. Also, we need to work as a county, city for housing because that's in every single conference we go to. That's one of the main things that we have to really work on to get going here to get our housing up so people have places to buy and rent. And today's a really, really special day for me and my family. My daughter, Amanda, is now in the United States. She was in England for 5.5 years, and they're going to be stationed in Spokane, Washington. So they have a pretty good drive from Baltimore to there. But anyways, they're finally back on U.S. soil. So, and everybody remember to drink lots of water. It's getting hot out there, and don't forget, don't leave those kids and animals in your car when you're gone even a minute or a second.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
No meetings attended, and just took care of internal commitments.
Okay.
That's all I got.
All right. I also attended the ribbon cutting on the open channel trail. It was good, and I didn't do anything else. I do want to wish everyone this month a happy birthday if you're having a birthday, and I want to echo what Councilmember Klink said about drinking plenty of water. Please drink water. This heat can sneak up on you, so drink plenty of water. All right. Consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are to be considered routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed. Any item may be removed from the consent calendar and considered separately by the City Council. The public will be given an opportunity to comment on consent calendar items prior to the City Council action.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may, item number 8, it calls for the Lighting and Landscaping Assessment District, calls for a public hearing on July 25th. I just want to make an amendment to that to move that public hearing to June 27th.
Okay. Okay, anybody want to pull a consent calendar item? All right. Open up to the public. Anybody want to comment on the consent calendar item? Bring it back. Looking for a motion.
Move the consent calendar.
As amended?
As amended, yes. Thank you.
Second.
Roll call.
Mint Clink.
Councilmember Klink.
Aye.
Councilmember Mitz.
Aye.
Councilmember Scott.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Buildering.
Aye.
Mayor Wright.
Aye.
Approved 5-0.
Thank you. Okay, public hearing. Presentation of the proposed two-year general fund budget for fiscal year 2023-24 and 2024-25.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Our finance director, Abigail Hernandez, will be giving this presentation. If I could find the PowerPoint.
Should be there.
That's that. That's not that either. Where did she put it? Shoot, maybe she could have known. I should have got this up. Does anybody see the presentation? City Council Housing.
Christina put it in there, so I'm not sure how she put it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's not in there. There she is. Where did you put it?
It's right in between the palm trees.
Between the palm trees. Right here? Okay. Okay.
Oh, there
Awesome. Thank you. Right between the palm trees. Yeah.
Thank you, Frank. So like, I'm sorry. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Like Frank said, we'll be presenting the proposed budget for the general fund for fiscal year 23-24 and 24-25. This time we are going to be recommending the approval for this budget. However, if council needs more time to review the proposed budget, then we can always schedule a hearing on the 27th. It just has to be approved before July 1st. Next slide, please. Next one. Next one, please. So let me start by saying that we have a balanced budget in both years. Year one, we have we're projecting a surplus of $144,000. Year two, we're projecting a surplus of $5,000. So that's the great news. Next slide, please. Here we have a chart of the city's revenue sources. As you can see, as in prior years, the top 5 revenue sources are property tax in lieu, TOT, franchise fees, and sales tax. This revenues combined comprise 84% of the city's total revenues. And here we have the expenditures by department, and this is a comparison of year one budget versus our current year forecast. And I just want to touch on the major changes from the current year forecast. So the non-departmental, and this is one that year over year, because we have different projects throughout the year, and that's where we have our transfers out. This is, for the most part, has always seen the biggest change. So in the current year, for example, we had transfers for the Lucky Park Pool project, which is pretty much completed. Then we also had a transfer for the animal control improvements. We had a $500,000 transfer for the wastewater treatment plant. Then the other department that's seen a significant increase, not an increase, a decrease, is the community development department. So, and that's mainly due to the changes in personnel. As you may recall, we had our former community development director retired in December, so you can see that change in year one. Then for the economic development, we added $5,000 for an economic development plan in year 1. Then law enforcement, per council request, we added a sheriff detective, which that accounts for about over $300,000 just for that detective. Next slide, please. Oh, actually, yeah, next slide. So for the second year, the only major significant change is the non-departmental, again, has to do with the projects that we have in the year. So in year 1, we are projecting we are planning to retire our the inactive fire safety plan. And so that's about $1.8 million. So that's a one-time item. And so that's why you see that significant change compared to year 2. Next slide, please. Okay, so for our contract services for law enforcement, as I talked about in the prior meeting, we continue to see increases in this services. So for the current year, it increased by 6.5%. But then in year 1, because we are adding the sheriff detective, we are going to see an increase of about 12%. Again, that detective alone is going to be about $316,000 increase in year 1. Next slide. So our salaries and benefits have also been increasing significantly. As you may recall, so last year we had a COLA of 6.9%, and that's just due to inflation. You'll see a chart later. We haven't really seen that high of an increase in prior years, but that's the main reason why we had that 21% increase in the current year. Then in year 1, we are projecting a COLA of 4.6%, and we also have some other personnel changes. Can you go to the next slide, please? So I was saying the historical COLA hasn't been as high as in recent years. So the current year we had a 6.9%. Then in year 2, it's a little bit lower, but still it's higher than the normal 2% that we have been given in the past. Next slide, please. So some of the payroll changes effective this at the beginning of the new fiscal year, in addition to the COLA, we received notification from CalPERS that the PEPRA employees were going to see a 1% increase in their contributions for their and their pension. This is not a city action. This is a retirement fund action. So to minimize the impact, we will be moving PEPRA employees from the PEPRA wage scale to the classic wage scale. Then another change happening in the upcoming year, and maybe Frank can elaborate more on this, but we're going to have a 2-step increase for excellence and longevity performance. Do you want to provide more input on that, or?
Yeah, so one of the things that we talked about, we're all familiar with the traditional government step process, which doesn't really separate excellence. So we have installed a performance-based step system. So if you get a certain score on your performance review, you'll get 2 steps. If you get below that, you'll get a step, which again incentivizes that excellence.
So another change, and this change actually took effect in the current year, but with the elimination of the Article 8 funding, the general fund is now absorbing 27% of public work wages. So that's another change that we had. So for new items in the budget, like I mentioned earlier, we have the fire safety plan which we're planning to terminate at the beginning of the new fiscal year. we are projecting that the total payoff amount is going to be about $3.5 million, but only about $1.8 million is going to come out of our general funds. Then we're also projecting, we're also presenting the acquisition of a vehicle for animal control. That's about $105,000. We also have in the budget $75,000 for housing and homeless activities and programs. And then also the $26,000 that you see for the ball field lights, that's the principal and interest that we're projecting with the financing of that project. For community events, we're projecting or we're recommending an increase of $50,000, and then $25,000 for an emergency response plan, and about $13,000 for staff education reimbursement programs, and $10,000 for a budget module. Next slide, please. So this is just a breakdown of what the payoff amount would be at different discount rates. So as you can see, the higher the interest rate, the lower the payoff amount. At this point, we don't know what the payoff amount will be. We're not going to know until we get the final evaluation from CalPERS, which we're projecting it'll take about 3 months from now. Next slide, please. Okay, so here we have a calendar for the city's events and recreational activities by month. And Frank, could you please elaborate more on
Yeah,
that?
so just to give some perspective to this, these are, 3 columns here, the month. The middle column is the events that we have. And then the right-hand column is, the mainstays, if you will, in the recreational department. The reason I wanted to bring this forward just to kind of plant, as we talk about in the next couple slides, is the recreational department, with a finite amount of staff, right, has, 6 days a week, right, basically Monday through Sunday to kind of perform all these tasks. So just keep that in mind as it relates to if you look to make any modifications to events and services, because again, there is a finite amount of staff there, and they have to have days off, vacations, and et cetera. And as you can see each month, kind of what we do both from a recreational side and from an event side. So I just wanted to put that from a context perspective, what is going on in that department.
Okay, so here we have a list of miscellaneous community events, and by miscellaneous, we don't mean that they're less important than the other events that we have or that were listed previously. Basically, they're not, the amount is not big enough to have a line in the budget by itself. So basically, we just combine them into this community events line. But basically, in this line, we have Halloween festival, the tree lighting, holiday event, paint night. So that $15,000, we included, that's including the purchase of the holiday tree, or of about $10,000. Then we also we sponsored the JTNP art show. And that was just sponsorship. We didn't provide any staffing for that event. The Pride 29, we did provide sponsorship, and then we also assisted in the event. By we, I mean the recreations department. Next slide, please. So here are some of the events that are upcoming. Juneteenth, the opening of Lackey Park Pool, and the 4th of July. We're not doing fireworks for 4th of July. It's just the same as last year. Next slide. Okay, so for this 2-year budget, we are, these are the events that we are including in the budget. The miscellaneous event, again, that $33,000, that included the Christmas tree. Typically for this line, we budget about $18,000 annually. But in year 2, we're including, in year 1 and year 2, we're including the $50,000 that I mentioned earlier. And we are recommending that the council establishes an ad hoc committee for the review of event applications and programs.
And just for clarity, so if I go back 2 slides here, so it's these events here, which account for 18,000 normal, if you take out the tree, that's part of this line right here. Plus the 50,000.
Plus the 50,000, yes. And then for another thing that I wanted to point out here is the Rory Carnival. So we actually make a profit on this event. The city keeps 50% of the net proceeds from that event. So, and then the other 50%, the Rory Club gets it. Next slide, please. Okay, so moving on to our reserves. So as you can see from this table, our reserves have been decreasing, and it's not, as mentioned in prior meetings, it's not so much that we're digging into our reserves, with the exception of year 1, where we're going to get about $473,000 we're going to be getting from our reserves for the termination of the fire safety plan. But other than that, the city staff doesn't dig into the reserves unless approved by the council. And so what's happening here is our expenditures have been increasing. So again, as you can see in 21-22, expenditures were about $10 million. In year 23, they increased to $12 million, and in year 1 and year 2, now they're at $13 million. So again, it's the increase in expenditures is not that we're digging into our reserves. And in the June 13 meeting, we're going to be recommending council to approve a lower reserve policy, because currently we have it at 60 to 65% of total expenditures. And as you can see on this table, we're now below that threshold. Next slide, please. And so this is just to put it into perspective. This is what we're mentioning, that even though our revenues have, continue to stay steady, our expenditures and just our major expenditures, which include law enforcement costs and salaries and benefits, those have been increasing significantly over the past few years. So that's what's creating that reduction in our reserves. Next slide, please. Okay, so this some of the items that we did not include in the budget due to budget constraints, and you can't recommend to add some of these budget items in the future. Some of these items in the future. One of them is the improvements to the old building of the pool for about $10,000, and support the 29 Palms Boys and Girls Club. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're pretty much done. Okay, so the recommendations for this presentation, one is the review and approval of the general fund budget. Second is the COLA for fiscal year 23-24 of 4.6%, the wage and classification scales, and the interfund transfers in year 1. The transfers are from the general fund to the capital projects fund for the self-funding of the capital projects fund, and $105,000 for the purchase of the vehicle for animal control, $5,000 for the future acquisition of a street sweeper, and $65,000 from the general fund to the sewer fund for subsidy of the fund. And just wanted to point that out, that $65,000 is not, it's budgeted in year 1 and year 2, but we're not projecting to have that in future years. And let me see. So, and as I was mentioning earlier, since we have the $50,000 for community events, we are recommending that council establishes an ad hoc committee for the review of the event applications. And that's it. Any questions, comments?
Any questions for staff? Okay, open it up for the public.
I have a question.
You got it.
On that sponsorship. So if you could, so we can
Yeah.
record it, please.
and at least give me a chance to call your name.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, I got Anna Stump.
Good evening, council members and Mayor Pro Tem and Mayor Wright. I'm speaking on behalf of the PAC, and I am not sure if the $15,000 that was for Project Phoenix Public Art is in this budget. I don't exactly know where it is, but I do want to speak on it since I have Chuck Kaplinger here. The PAC would like to advocate that the $15,000 be used to move the Twentynine sculpture, which is currently on Highway 62 on a hill, to the plaza. And it's been in its place for about 12 to 14 years. Chuck couldn't exactly remember. But it was never meant to be there permanently. It was only supposed to be there for 6 months, and another better location was supposed to be found. And the plaza is an amazing place for the sculpture. I would really like you guys to envision the sculpture as a photographic video opportunity with people leaning on it, dancing around it. It would be an amazing promotional event and sculpture for the plaza. And also it does need some significant repair because it's been outside in the weather for all these years, and so the $15,000 could be used to move that sculpture. So we hope that you'll consider it. Thank you very much.
And Mr. Mayor, members of the council, so that $15,000 that you referred to is in the special funds budget, which will be coming to you next meeting.
Thank you. Okay, Vino.
My name is Vino Nathraj. When you get back to that sponsorship slide, I just want to make sure I saw right. I want to go back to that 29 Palms Pride.
15.
So the city gave $1,516. Is that right?
Correct.
And I think the T-bid also gave $7,500. And one of the things that they need to do is bring in tourists. And we didn't see much tourists. It was very quiet that weekend. Now, if people want to have private parties, I don't think I'm part of the T-bid. I should be funding it. And plus, we're using city money. I never knew there was also $1,516 allocated for that, because when they made their pitch, I went ahead and said, yes, we should give them that $7,500, but I never knew about this $1,516 as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Jane Bingy. Okay.
Mary Jane Bingy, 6528 Hillside Avenue. And sorry, Anna, but I'm totally against moving that since my office is directly in line, or diagonally in line, with that sculpture, Chuck Kaplinger's sculpture. And the amount of people that stop there as they're driving through town, it would be a shame to move that to the plaza where it can't be seen by tourists. So the amount of people that come by there, people leaving 29, you know, military people, they want to get that last picture with the 29 exclamation point. And then tourists come in. I mean, sometimes there's 3 and 4 cars there getting pictures. So if it gets moved to the plaza, that is all going to be missed by people coming through town. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I don't have any more green slips. Bring it back to the council for discussion.
We got one more? Oh, you already hit, I'm sorry. I would actually want to recommend that we amend the budget to remove the Pride 29 sponsorship, especially if T-Bid is also sponsoring them too. I don't think it's appropriate. I think that the city should be prioritizing federal and state holidays, And so I want to recommend that the city sponsor Juneteenth as a federal holiday, $2,500 a year.
Anybody else?
Well, if you want to amend that, why don't we just move the 1,500 over there?
Well, if I may, so that 1,500, that has already been spent. We're not, that's for 22, 23. That has already happened.
So we have, that's the special funds. That's next meeting.
No. This is for the 29, for the
No,
Pride
next
29,
meeting
right?
we do the special.
Yeah, so just for clarification, so this is what we spent in this current year, so
Right.
22, 23. If we move forward, this miscellaneous community events, what this consists of is 18,000 of normal things that we do, plus the 50. that
Okay,
we
so
add.
we'll address that.
So,
Okay.
so if you look at this chart here is what we spent, that $18,000 is for this.
All right, okay. We'll address that, okay. Thank you. Sorry, thank you, Abigail.
So we can address what Councilmember Scott's talking about to the special budget.
Yeah, you can give us, direction, so as we, work towards these planning of next year's, we know what your goals and objectives are.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Excuse me, absolutely. I just think that the staff, like you said, we have a finite staff, and their time is very precious. As a municipality, we should prioritize federal and state holidays as events. Also, in terms of community events, I think it would be a good option for the city to look at having a housing and resource fair, similar to how the health district does a health fair. Our residents, they need education, and they need help and support, and I think that would be a benefit to the community.
And I just want to clarify on the Pride 29 sponsorship. So it wasn't like actual cash that was given to them. It was, we pay for their permit and I believe equipment that they needed, but it wasn't like actual cash that was sent to them.
Sure,
Yeah,
but
maybe in the future we should put an asterisk next to just staff support, because that is important to know that there wasn't $1,500 in cash. It was the permit. So maybe in the future we could, for our sake, so we know ahead of time too, that it's not a cash payout.
Okay.
Thank you. I don't know, does everybody else agree? I mean, I don't want to, that's would help everybody else. It would help me to know it was just basically staff time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was a mixture, because they needed for that, we don't have sound equipment, so that's part of what, Ms. Hernandez mentioned about the equipment that we had to rent. We had to rent that, and which is part of that, plus the permit fees.
I agree with the Pride 29 response, to have it with, just like Danny said. I agree with the Juneteenth sponsoring that as well, but I also would like to see the Memorial Day added on to that, because we are kind of in a hole this year, so we need to not be in the hole that we're in right now. So we lost the cemetery this year for sponsoring that. So we're hoping to get some other nonprofits to take it over, but so far we haven't found anybody. So we'll have something. Believe me, we're not going to leave our Marines and sailors and all who lost their lives in war. We will have something for Memorial Day, just so you know.
Thank you.
All right, so are you ready for a motion to just approve what we have here?
So what staff is hearing, and I just want to be clear on it. So from a perspective, kind of managing staff in the events, so from the council, just to make sure you're okay with it, keeping the quantity of events the same, no more, no less. So I guess that's maybe a question. But the second part of it is, I heard Memorial Day. I heard maybe elimination of Pride in the future as far as city funding. And so the direction really to staff is, at least what I heard, state and federal funding, federal events is a priority. From a staff perspective, no more, no less than what we currently have, so we're not adding more, and we have Memorial Day. So we're gonna have to, maybe drop some other things there we don't want, so if we add Memorial Day, if we add Juneteenth, we subtract 2 by way of example.
Well,
Pride being one of them.
Well, we're not going to be putting on those events, so it's not going to take.
Correct.
Yeah, So this is something that we're going to sponsor for community members and leaders to take on. And so I think we don't have to drop anything actually when it comes to that, because we're just giving them money, right?
Correct, yeah. So it'll be, so the dollars that will be out there, again, just make sure staff's crystal clear on it. So the dollars that we have that will remain consistent, we're not going to add dollars, decrease dollars. State and federal holidays will be a priority, at least what I heard anyway, for events. Either staff doing or sponsorship. But from what staff is doing, it's going to be no more, no less than what we're currently doing. We're not going to add anything that we're currently doing.
Absolutely. And the $50,000 that we're doing for events and activities in that budget, I was wanting to, I want to do a signature event with that money every year. And I have an idea. I think, the Cactus Blossom Festival would serve our community very well every spring, so that we can help boost tourism right before the summertime. I think it would be a benefit to the community as well. And the Twentynine sign, I just want to add, since we're still on this topic, I personally think it is going to be better in the plaza as an Instagram moment. We live in a social media time, and a lot of people want to take pictures. It's kind of dangerous to pull off of 62 where it's at and take a picture. I would prefer it downtown.
Well, we disagree on that. I like it where it's at. I've taken a picture there. So,
yeah, I like where it's at.
Can we at least turn it so that when you come in the city, you see it? Like, you don't see it when you're coming in or out. And actually, we had a meeting with the assemblyman who said he had to look for it. Am I wrong?
Yeah, but right. I like it where it's at.
Okay.
Well, I personally, when it was first done, and I will say it in public, I didn't like it. I would have rather have seen a palm tree over that 29. But I did listen to Chuck, and he explained to me what that explanation point is. And I see a lot of people stopping at that sign and taking pictures. I just saw a couple in a Mustang, and they were taking the Mustang picture with the lady in the picture in the Mustang, and I think we'll lose a lot of tourism. People seeing that rather than go to the plaza. Where were you thinking at the plaza? Let me ask you that real quick.
We'd be open to suggestions, but it probably needs to be against a wall because you don't want to see it backwards.
Okay.
I guess, are we talking about the plaza down off 2 Mile Road? No. That's the plaza. You're talking about Freedom Plaza.
Freedom.
Okay, you gotta kind of clarify that, because
Yeah.
we have the plaza, which has been there for 50, 60, 70, 80 years, and now we have Freedom Plaza, which is new. So, okay, I was confused too. I'm like, yeah, because we have that big thing in the middle with the, looks like a fountain, or the pot of gold that's coming out. That's permanent. So I was like, yeah, where are we going to put that?
So does Freedom Plaza sound better than that?
No. I like where it's at. That's me. But
Can we find a wall, put a mural with that 29 sign?
Oh, I like that.
Just
Yeah.
find one of the wall. I don't know if that wall by the ATM machine. Is there something on there yet?
Well, they redid that.
They redid it, right? But
Yeah, they made it look like the visitor center from they used the same kind of color
Yeah,
and.
but you couldn't put a mural of that hillside on that wall for people to still get that effect.
Well,
I'm sure artists would like to do something for free, art. They can promote it.
I have a suggestion.
oh, you got a green slip?
It's up for a different topic, so if you want to add with this number.
Yeah, and then come to the podium. Did I close public hearing?
Mm-hmm.
I think,
Oh,
good evening, council.
I'm sorry, I closed public hearing.
That's why it was just a suggestion.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So obviously, I love it where it is, but I'm thinking because they're in charge of art, perhaps that we should put on some kind of an art contest with a prize to come up with a new concept for Freedom Plaza. I think that's what a lot of cities do. It generates a lot of interest. It's very exciting, and that's what you guys do.
All right, thank you. Okay, so I'm still looking for a motion, and part of the motion is, she said she wanted a ad hoc committee. So I recommend Councilmember Scott as one of the members.
I would volunteer for that.
Okay, Scott and Danny.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so now we need a motion.
What's the resolution number, Cindy? All right, I make a motion that we adopt resolution number 2309, approving the fiscal year 23-24, 24-25 general budget, including annual spending plan, employee cost of living adjustment COLA, wage scale and classification schedule, inter-fund transfer for FY 2023-24, transfers from the general fund to capital projects fund, $160,000 for self-funding, $5,000 for purchase of vehicles for animal control, and $5,000 put aside for acquisition of a street sweeper. $65,000 transfer the general fund to sewer fund for subsidies. And then the what did you need the other that included the? We don't need to put that in the motion, do we, for the ad hoc?
Well, the ad hoc.
Yeah.
No, we got council direction.
Okay. All right. So then that's my motion.
Okay, I need
A second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Klink.
Aye.
Councilmember Mintz.
Aye.
Councilmember Scott.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Buildering.
Aye.
Mayor Wright.
Aye.
Approved 5-0.
Thank you very much. I noticed them numbers slides slipping up there too, though.
Those slide.
Okay, discussion and potential action items. City manager's written report and intention to levy sewer fees for fiscal year 2023-24.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This item, again, is we're getting involved in sewer. This probably could have been on a consent calendar, very similar to the lighting and landscape districts that are currently on the consent calendar. But with that, this is kind of an annual report for the assessment of our sewer fees in the downtown area. Our downtown area, affectionately called Project Phoenix, has about 12 connections that currently are there. As mentioned in the general fund staff report, we do subsidize, the general fund does subsidize the enterprise system. In theory, from an enterprise perspective, rates should be paying for 100% of the service. However, it's just too small. There's just not enough connections. So what we are doing this evening is bringing this forth to increase the fees by the same CPI, the same COLA that we talked about in the general fund, 4.6%, that will be presented forth to the assessor. Again, very similar to the lighting and landscaping district that goes on to the property tax rolls for collection. So I'd be happy to, and one thing, just want to clarify this too, what we're hoping is in the larger municipal system, this smaller system would go away. And so there would be those more connections to be able to have a sustainable system versus the smaller system that needs that subsidy. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff?
So if we levy these fees now, they're going to go away if we get the monies for.
Well, won't go away because these are your utility bill, right? What will go away, though, is the subsidy from the general fund. So businesses and individuals would always have to pay their utility bill, and we're not charging them anymore. The general fund is subsidizing it to make it whole. So that subsidy would go away, but the fees to the individuals and businesses would remain.
But a possibility of changing because of more connections.
Correct, but what the change would be from the general fund side. So we wouldn't have to subsidize that. So that would go away from an expense on the general fund side because then it would become sustainable because there's more connections.
Okay, got it.
That makes sense?
Yeah. A little bit. It doesn't seem right. My gut tells me it doesn't seem right, and I'm still trying to figure it out. And so I might need to study it a little bit longer.
Okay.
When you brought this up last time, how much it costs, I was figuring out it was going to be like $900 a month if we would charge these 12 people the actual 85,000, what it costs right now. It'd be $900 a month for each one of those. So right now it's like, what is the store, $20? So
Well,
I think it was on there. It was $12.
Yeah.
It wasn't. What would be a normal fee?
Yeah, here is the, I know the rates are here. Here are the monthly rates. So it depends your store. So
Right.
the more water you use, so if you're a restaurant, by way of example, you pay more. If you're just a dress shop, if you will, you just have a toilet and a sink, so you don't use that much water, you're less. So it just depends on the use.
Okay.
Who comes up with those categories though?
So we get it from actual usage of waters from the water district. So depending on what they actually use. So the idea from a sewer is the more water you use, the more water goes down the drain. So that's how you get charged your assessment.
Okay, because I thought I saw somewhere where where it was actually split, like between a pizza shop and a.
Correct, yeah. So what we did is we defined that from a categorical perspective of usage. So a restaurant, so all those had different classifications. So we didn't put in there, by way of example, the Boardwalk. We didn't put in there, by way of example, Mara. We didn't put in there, but the Virginian. So we put, just headings on there of bar, restaurant, dress shop, etc. So that's what you'll see in the report.
Okay.
Okay, any more questions for staff? Open up to the public. Okay, I got Vino.
Thank you, Mayor. In fact, I see you using EDU, estimated dwelling unit. So estimated dwelling unit is 175 gallons per unit. And what do we take into consideration for that 175 units, and how many people in that estimated dwelling unit?
So the dwelling unit is classified as a single-family house, so that's always one, right? So that 175 gallons a day is one EDU or one unit. So so then it becomes multiples of that for commercial. So again, you're a dress shop, you may, by way of example, use 40 gallons. I'll just make that up. So there'll be a fraction of the one EDU. If you use 350 gallons a day, right, if you're a commercial entity and you use 350 a day, that would be 2 EDUs. So it just depends on the water usage is the EDU. One EDU is a house. Then from a commercial, it just depends if you're more or less than that.
I guess maybe I didn't put my question out there properly. For the one EDU in a house, residential, do we take into consideration one toilet, one shower, one hand basin, one sink, and 2 people living or 4 people living?
Yes. So when you do sewer, because things change every year, you have a house that could have more people, less people, so you have a standard, right? So you look at it from a holistic perspective, and you kind of drill it down to an average. So you could have more people, less people. We don't take that into a consideration for one EDU.
And let's say hypothetically, if I show end of the year, I'm supposed to use 175 times 365. In the meantime, I only use 100. The money that you charge me on the rate, would you give me a refund, or the city would keep that money?
It's based on the usage. So it would have to be recalculated if you use less water.
So we'll get a refund.
Well,
I think it kind of goes by the trash. I mean, some days you put out way more trash, and the next time you don't put out, but they still charge us the same. Burtech charges the same. If a house uses less trash than the neighbor, we're still paying the same price. I guess that's how, when I looked at this, I kind of equated it to the trash bill, because if there's a house with 4 people, they're going to use more trash than the retired guy next to me. It doesn't hardly use. He puts out half a trash can out once a week, and I'm putting out 1 recycle and 1 full one, because there's 4 people. So I guess that's how I equated it to this, is sometimes you're going to use more, sometimes you use less.
So we have to compare.
So an enterprise fund, just to give a little education on enterprise fund, is, as it relates to, and I know Matt is in the audience, you have to, you can't make money on an enterprise fund, right? The responsibility from an enterprise fund is recover the cost from an operation and break even, right? There's no profit. A profit is tax, and voters have to vote for tax. So if people use less, it has to be recalculated through a rate study, but it's a zero-sum game. If by way of example, if it costs, and I'll just make this up, $2 million for an operation, okay, then it just has to be recalculated because it's a zero-sum game. So those analyses will have to continue to go on, which are called rate studies. And those rate studies through the years will always analyze this to make sure that we change and adjust our rates based on usage with the allocation of the cost to break even.
Let me respond to Councilman Dan Mintz. In fact, you have to compare apples to apples. I have businesses in other cities, and basically when I built my existing buildings, I put in a domestic water and a landscape meter. I have two meters now. I'm not affected by this place because I don't have any business, but I'm just, questioning because in my distinct opinion,
that's 3 minutes.
the distinct water can be calculated. It is not like trash. I can call up Matt's water department and ask him how much of water I use and say, hey, you know what, your department have been overcharging me, so you need to give me a refund. Other cities do give me a refund.
That's 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, Elaine Leslie? Eileen Leslie, sorry.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. I'm happy to tell you that my permit for my bar, I submitted it, no corrections, and it was approved. So I'll be paying for that tomorrow. I'm very excited. I'd also like to say, God rest Karen Masterson. She was ill before she was able to come in here and speak on this issue with me as a property owner that would have had very heavily weighted percentage on the initial setup of this infrastructure of how we were supposed to be charged. I've got to tell you, it's exorbitant. You basically have no ceiling on it. And just for my two businesses alone, what is it, the 175 and 185, what am I at? $350, $360 a month for basically a septic tank. You want to change the words around all the time. You talk about it all the time. It is not a treatment plant. I had a septic tank. You wanted a Paseo. You have your Paseo, and I still have a septic tank. I don't even know what's going on with Hilton, because shouldn't they be getting their own septic tank? Because I can't imagine the wear and tear that's going to go in on our septic tank, and I'm concerned about that. 4% annually, the CPI increase I believe that you're suggesting, actually matches the COLA, 4.6%. That's odd. When you're talking about top 5 sources of income for the city, it's sales tax. Sales tax is coming from restaurants, shops in our town. We don't have a Walmart that's getting a lot of sales tax income. It's our little stores along the way that are bringing in the sales tax. Which I do want to touch on something else, because I've already heard a little whisper that we're going to be going for a sales tax increase. So I just want an aside on that. When you go into a restaurant, and not a bar because of the way taxes are, when you go into a restaurant and you get to that bottom part and it says sales tax, and you're making a decision on a tip, you're only hurting the server. You're only going to hurt the servers. And I want that to be really well understood in the service industry in this town that's not wealthy. So going back to this, I don't know how you can possibly do a 4.6 CPI if you do that annually every year. How much more is that going to be for someone like me? Let me put it this way. My building's a great investment, both of my buildings. I'll just pay that. I don't open. You make no sales tax. How does this make sense? You want me to open. You want me to have a vibrant downtown. There's other people here representing downtown. 12 to 17 businesses, and you're going to hit us up this hard on this. This wasn't the deal. We don't have events on the stage of Project Phoenix to help bring in people. I mean, where is the payoff in being in that district? It's just not there. And yet we are a payoff. It's an adorable block now. It's going to be even more fantastic when I get in there and my stuff's all done. You just want to promote my business, not scare people off with these kind of fees. And we just shouldn't have this attitude that every time there's an opportunity to get money, we ask for a little bit more. That's not what we should be about. I appreciate your time very much, and I want you to really think about this. It's a burden.
Thank you. Next, we have Joseph Carter.
Greetings, council members. I'm actually asking these for someone else. Someone texted me some questions. They're easy questions. I think they're pretty much for Frank. What are the applications, the implications for other property owners on parcels not currently connected to the system? I'm guessing there's not, right? What I heard that there wasn't. Okay, good. What are the rate controls, and is the 4.6% or the 4%, is that the only increase there can be, or can you raise, are there any other mechanisms to raise rates? Like if you need to...
So in enterprise system, you can't make money, but you can, I think what Councilmember Mint said, you could charge all the way up to the amount to recover the cost, which I think when we first looked at it was around $900. The council said, no way, you got to have it in reasonable dollar amounts, and we matched what Yucca Valley charged in their municipal system, and so the backfill of that was the general fund. So that's what subsidized those rates. So yeah, the only maximum in rates is what the cost of the operation is. Can't make money on it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, no more green slips. Okay, tell us who you are.
I'm Carol Edwards with Mara.
Okay.
Hi, all. And everything just went out of my head. Poof. Straight out my ears. Gone. I have to reiterate what Irene was saying in that I am concerned. We run very close to the margin. We're a restaurant. There is not a lot of profit in a restaurant, and what there is, I hold on to with my eye teeth. We, unfortunately, have water and sewer built into our lease. So when we're assessed additional water and sewer on top of that, we're double paying. And that can be the difference between our opening on a Thursday, which is something we want to have happen, and not opening on a Thursday. It's the difference between hiring another server and not hiring another server. And it hurts my soul. It does. I don't know what more I can say. I mean, Irene was very eloquent, but just so you are aware, it is a serious concern in the downtown area amongst individuals that do run very close to the margin and who do run businesses that are going to be not necessarily significant water users, but will be using more water than, say, a dress shop. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, no more green slips. Bring it back to council. Further discussion and motion.
So in her situation, she pays in her lease to the owner for the water. Why does she get charged again?
This goes to the property. So we don't charge the tenant. We charge it goes on to the property tax roll. So what the landlord does, we don't know, but that goes on to the property tax.
So you're not actually paying the 2 times. You're just paying the 1 time?
One time, but if it is assessed to businesses, we'll be paying twice.
Okay,
Yeah, it just goes to property tax.
Okay.
So for clarifications, in which the confusion may be, the first year that we did it, we billed directly. So in a lot of cases, it went to the property, tenant, maybe in some cases. Now, last year and this year, it's going right onto the roll. So the owner of the property gets it.
The owner of the property gets it, and he kicks that charge to the tenant.
Could be.
I own property. That's what they do. I don't know. I can't.
Well, we have to pay for the system. Whether that, we'll have to take more, we'll have to subsidize it more. We already subsidized 65,000, so. What's the resolution number, Cindy? Is it 10? 10. So it's 10 on both of these? Yes, there's two. 10 and 11.
I'd like to make a motion that we table this until further discussion, until we can actually have enough information to make a good decision.
I'm kind of not liking the 4.6% increase. These are our businesses downtown that are trying to make money for themselves and bring tourism in, and to do 4.6, that's a lot of money to be taken out of their pockets.
So yeah, it's a zero sum. So basically, you lower the revenue, you increase the general fund expense. So that's the yin and the yang there.
Yeah, I just think that we have to give an opportunity for our businesses to grow and expand downtown. The city does a lot for a lot of people. I think that we should do something for our downtown area. I know, we got to fund the system, but we got to get our downtown to a point where, it's vibrant, and we're almost there. I've eaten at these restaurants. I go down there all the time. It's improving with every year, and I'm afraid that if we make decisions that are without proper information, we could turn that clock back and go the opposite direction instead of forward. We want to go forward and not backwards.
What is the proper information that you would request? I mean, I get politically, maybe you want, to defer this or what have you, but what additional information from staff would you like to see?
I'd like to actually go through and look at the numbers a little bit and actually speak with my constituents. That's information as an elected official I should do before I make a decision like this.
I would like to see how much raising it are like a 2.6% instead of a 4.6. How much more we would have to pay out of the general fund to fund that.
So am I getting a second on Councilmember Scott's motion?
I'll second it.
So just from a timing perspective of this, so it has to be on the property tax rolls to the county by August, I think, 10th. We need 2 meetings to do that. Is the recommendation just to lower the increase? And then we'll just have
That'll
to
be mine.
And we would redo the budget. Obviously, the general fund, we'll have to see what that calculation is, and then increase that $65,000 transfer by whatever marginally amount. And it won't be a lot, quite frankly. I mean, there's only $15,000 worth of revenue in this. So if we go from 4.6 to, let's say, 2.6 in that scenario, it's going to be a marginal change. It won't be a big change.
So we have to have 2 meetings. We have to have 2 meetings, but we can always have a special meeting.
Exactly. Yeah.
So in my second, can we do roll call?
Any further discussion? We could actually make another motion too, but everybody good?
Well,
Roll
I was
call.
going to start.
Oh.
Table.
Table. Yes.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Okay. Councilmember Mintz?
No.
Councilmember Klink?
Aye.
Councilmember Scott?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Buildering?
Aye.
Mayor Wright?
Aye.
Approved 401.
Okay. Table.
Or 4-1.
Got to do some work, Frank.
Frank, before we go, that business improvement project thing we still got funds in that?
It's fully subscribed, but we're working with the business owners to either complete their projects, get going, or if not, we're going to reopen it up so others can get into it.
Well, let's close that out. They don't get it done and use that money towards the sewer. So we're not going to improve their outside stuff, but we'll use the money to help the
To
businesses
reallocate? Yeah.
reallocate it towards that fund.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's good. Okay. Number 11, potential commercial solar field.
Yeah. We'll play.
right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Staff has been in very preliminary discussions with a potential developer of a commercial solar field. With some recent changes in state law, that presents a little bit of a question for us. Currently, our general plan and our zoning development code do not allow commercial solar fields. But with recent changes in state law, the state reserves the right to take jurisdiction over these types of applications. So staff has taken the position that if they want to come to the city, we'd like to negotiate some community benefits, as opposed to them going directly to the state and essentially leaving the city out of the process. So we do have the applicant here who has a presentation for us, if you'd like to see it.
Okay, yes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I would like to take this opportunity to represent E-Group's solar project. I'm Peter Bobrow, and I'm representative of E-Group. Just quick overview, and then I would handle the lead to Robert Smith here from Galen Gates to follow up with the details on the project. E-Group was established in 2008 in Czechoslovakia. Is developing and constructing, operating economically viable and environmentally sustainable renewable energy projects all around the world. Throughout its existence, E-Group has successfully developed, acquired, and managed renewable assets over $1.2 billion US. This achievement is a result not just financial strength, but also our comprehensive range of services that cover entire project life cycle. By staying in control of every aspect, we can ensure that all of our facilities worldwide are efficient, sustainable, and constructed with minimal ecological impact. Our solar and wind CHP facilities are generating approximately 1.4 terawatt hours of renewable energy annually, which...
can you speak up, sir? We can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Our solar and wind and CHP facilities... Is it off?
Yeah, it's on.
All right. Yeah. So, as I already mentioned, our solar and wind facilities and CHP facilities are generating approximately 1.4 terawatt hours of renewable energy annually, which covers approximately 130,000 households in the United States, for example. Our years of experience basically enabling problem solving and collaborating with local communities, cities, to solve issues like local energy generation, grid resiliency, and avoiding blackouts. We are excited to work on this prospect with the city of Twentynine Palms and maybe move forward with your first commercial installation here. I would like to leave more to the Robert to bring you more details on the project.
Thank you, Peter. Robert Smith with Canal Gates. I'm a project representative for this project. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Please move it forward 2 slides. There we go. So, as mentioned by the city planner, we are at the very preliminary stage of a proposal. We certainly understand that the city has a moratorium, but we're excited about the opportunity to partner with the city on a proposed solar project. So right now, again, this is purely a proposal. We haven't even submitted an application yet, so as I'm going to go over these, there are preliminary project plans. And so what you see on the slide in front of you is our proposed location. So that is a the box that you see there is 175 acres. It's smack dab in the middle of a property that is owned by a single property owner, which E-Group currently has a lease to develop that property. So that site is currently vacant and undeveloped, and surrounded on all sides by land that's also owned by the same property owner that's also vacant and undeveloped. To give you an idea about where this is in the city, it's on the western side of the city. That a dark line you see towards the bottom is 2 Mile Road. The Desert Congregational Church you see there a little bit. Thank you for the pointer. You'll see it on 2 Mile Road. That's where the Congregational Church is. So to give you some idea of what's in the surrounding area, the proposed area is over 1,400 feet away from the nearest residences. Those are the ones to the east. And it's a half a mile north of any residences that are south of 2 Mile Road. So we've built in some natural buffers from any residential activity that's nearby. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry, go back for one moment. If you see at the very bottom there, there's a box in the bottom left-hand corner. That is the proposed point of interconnection. There's an SCE substation there, and the line that you see, the dark line, would be the interconnection line that would go from the property across the lessor's property and then directly to the left down 2 Mile Road. And I'll mention why that's important in a couple minutes. Next slide, please. So a little more about the overview of the project. It's a proposed 50 megawatt project on 175 acres. That would include an installation of photovoltaic PV solar panels on a fixed array. So basically it would just be static. It wouldn't move with the sun. There's electrical cabling and communication lines, the interconnection line that I mentioned earlier, an access road, which would be a private road connecting the project site directly to 2 Mile Road, as well as a security fence. The PV proposal system is a fixed system that's tilted up towards the sun. And importantly, it's elevated on installed piles. And so it's elevated approximately 3 to 4 feet off the ground, which allows for, say, wildlife and other things to pass underneath. Like I mentioned before, it'll connect to the SCE transmission network, which is the Caribbean station. The project timeline, hopefully, if everything goes well, we would begin construction in 2025, operational in 2026, with an estimated project lifespan of 35 years. Next slide. So this just sort of shows the proposed array at a very basic level. So you've got your solar lines of solar rows separated by access roads and maintenance roads in between to access the solar panels. So we understand a couple of critical considerations for the community and to the city are both minimization of visual impacts as well as potential project benefits. So first, the minimization of visual impacts. This site is chosen primarily for, well, one of the reasons, for that reason. It's flat and it's at a lower elevation than a lot of the surrounding properties. And the benefit of that is that when you provide visual screening through native vegetation, you could actually block viewpoints from a lot of the nearby residences and viewpoints. So the site's been selected for that reason. That's another reason why we've moved it back half a mile from 2 Mile Road to allow us to have that visual screening to hopefully screen views from nearby residential areas. The other one, on project benefits, the biggest one here is that it's clean, renewable energy. We've developed 101 gigawatt hours of energy. That's enough to power every single household in the city. It would create approximately 200 construction jobs and 300 jobs over the life of the project. It's our intention that almost all of those be filled by local community members and employees to the extent possible. And also, it will include certainly a public benefits package that needs to be negotiated with the city. So as part of the project approvals, which in this case, as mentioned, would be a general plan amendment, a zone change, as well as a conditional use permit, we anticipate to include a development agreement with the city, which will incorporate a public benefits package that's still to be negotiated. But we anticipate that that will be at a minimum as good, if not significantly exceed, public benefit packages that have been negotiated in neighboring communities. Next slide, please. So this is just a rendering of what the actual system looks like on the ground. Next slide. This is a visual rendering of what it looks like from the residences viewing the project, viewing south from 2 Mile Road. Just one note on this, it has a security fence there. That security fence will not be in that location. It'll actually be half a mile further north. But the plantings, the proposed vegetation there, that would be the visual screening with native vegetation. Next slide. So this is a view looking from the Desert Congregational Church. So like I said, the church is southeast of the project site, so this is looking towards the site, towards the northwest. And this is the view from Sunrise Road. So this is east of the project site, looking directly west towards the project. So we've been looking for a potential site in the city for over 2 years. And a lot of consideration went into potential sites. We investigated at least a dozen sites, alternative sites in the community that would work for both our interests as well as site compatibility with the community. And there are a couple of critical considerations why we feel that this site in particular is the ideal site for this to be developed. The first one is, like I said before, that point of interconnection is really close by. So usually, on average, it costs about $1 million per mile to build a transmission line. And so the fact that the transmission line is just across the road on 2 Mile Road saves E-Group millions of dollars. And those are dollars that can be spent, hopefully, in negotiating a community benefits package with the city and the community. So savings there can go towards, hopefully, a package that the community likes. Also, that makes it much easier from a transactional perspective. Sometimes when you have an interconnection line, you might need to negotiate dozens of easements with property owners to actually connect your line to a substation. In this case, we're negotiating with one who we already have a lease, as well as along the road. And so it's going to be less of an impact to property owners, less of an impact to people either digging up through their yard or having a above ground transmission line that's going to come near their property, which we view as a big benefit. In this case, we're able to underground the line because it's so close, so nobody's going to be able to see it. Also, you need sunlight for a solar project. This has favorable irradiation conditions that with very little shading, which allows for favorable energy production. It's located in an area with relatively few residential or sensitive uses as compared to some other areas of the city. Certainly, we're not saying there's zero, but in comparison to some of the other locations we looked at, this is a less dense area for residential uses and sensitive uses. And also, finally, it's not located near significant recreational areas, which is another consideration we took into account. Next slide, please. So this is the process. Like we said, it's very, very preliminary. We haven't even submitted an application yet. But so what the process we're looking to do is partner with the city, hopefully say, listen, we'd like to at least consider the idea of lifting a moratorium, at least in this circumstance. We plan to submit an application for all the entitlements that be necessary, a general plan amendment and a code amendment, proposed development agreement as well. We hope to do that within next month, submit a complete application package if the city is interested. In the event that the city continues its moratorium, as noted, there is a separate process that we can utilize. Last year, the state legislature passed AB 205. That's a process that allows renewable energy applicants circumvent the city process entirely and get approved by the state. And to be clear, that's not what we want to do. We've been working with the city for 2 years to try to bring a project forward. Talked to some city council members during that process. We don't want to go around behind your back and go off to the state legislature. That's not our intent here. Our intent is to find a project that we can partner with the city and partner with the community that you can be proud of and that we can get approved here as opposed to Sacramento. But again, if that's not something that you're interested in, then obviously that's our option B, though not a preferred option. We'll coordinate with the city planning department on the preparation of the CEQA analysis. We understand, obviously, the city's got a moratorium. The city and the community can have reasonable concerns about solar development. But we think if given the opportunity, we'll partner with the city to make sure those are addressed, both the aesthetic considerations, environmental considerations, and engage in a thorough environmental review process and a public coordination process that allows us to hopefully address those concerns as we move through the process. It's quite a significant one. Obviously, there's a lot of work that needs to be done to do these entitlements and environmental review, but we look forward to the opportunity to address those challenges and address those questions that the community may have. And finally, we're committed to a transparent process. Part of that is today. You don't even have an application in front of you, yet we are looking forward, hopefully, to starting a conversation with the city and the community to have a transparent process. I think there's going to be plenty of opportunities for us to engage with key stakeholders and other concerned residents and members of the community that might have concerns about this. And so we're hoping at this point we can sort of start that conversation, realizing that there's a lot of discussion still to be had. And so I was just saying, with California is committed to transition towards clean energy that reduces our dependence on fossil fuels, reduces harmful air emissions and global warming, and creates a better environment for future generations. This transition requires a significant and immediate investment in renewable energy. The city and our communities face increased possibility of energy insecurity, blackouts, and continued warming temperatures and associated environmental consequences. E-Group is here to partner with the city, looking forward to partnering with the city and the community to develop a project that contributes sustainable clean energy, provides local community benefits and jobs, and protects sensitive habitats. Thank you for your consideration, and I'm available for any questions.
Any questions?
Yeah, excuse me. As you know, we're in the desert, and you said that there were some. You're going to have those bushes to hide it, right? You can't get them too high, because if you go too high, then you probably block the sun, right? Solar panels, they generate a lot of heat. What cooling system will be used to keep it cold or operating?
So I'll answer your first question, then I'll pass over to Peter to ask the more technical question. So the way that we can shield from aesthetic uses, if you go back, if you would, to the site plan. Sorry, keep on going back. There, thank you. So the visual rendering that you saw earlier showed that native vegetation right along 2 Mile Road, which shields the views from the neighborhood to the south, but still a half a mile away from where the solar installation will actually occur. And to be clear, the property owner that we have a lease controls all that area. So we can screen by the road, but that won't affect, the solar development that's half a mile to the north. And for the technical cooling question, I'll turn it over to Peter.
Thank you.
So when it comes to cooling of panels as such do not generate any heat. The only heat is generated by the inverters, which in this case will be air-cooled, passively cooled inverters, which are placed directly below the panels and using the shade created by those panels to keep them cooler. This is not a huge utility size inverter that would generate significant noise. That's why we chose this technology. Dissipation of the whole heat is maybe around between 80 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit, which is actually lower than the ambient temperature here in desert. So there is no real concern about the temperature.
So there's no water cooling?
No, there is no water cooling.
Okay.
No.
Thank you for that.
Any more questions? Okay, open up to the public, and I have a letter first. It says, Dear council members, I'm commenting in regard to item number 11 on tonight's agenda, potential commercial solar field. I truly hope the city of Twentynine Palms has some backbone and stands up to the bullying of this developer. This proposed solar field is right next to a church and adjacent to residential neighborhoods. This size and scope of this project is massive and does not fit at all within our city limits for numerous reasons you must already be aware of. If our own city and city council does not stand up and fight the legality and threats of this developer and AB 205, it will be left to the environmental groups and citizens to fight this ridiculously massive 175-acre solar farm. The City of Twentynine Palms Development Code does not allow for commercial solar farms, so I ask you, the City Council representing us, the citizens, to please fight and stand up against bullying developers and not join forces with them for fear of losing out on supposed tax revenues if they plan to build without your approval. There are many valid reasons why the city currently does not allow for commercial solar farms, and you, our city representatives, should know why and understand why this is. I urge you to please help our own constituents to not let this huge solar farm be built in our city, and please uphold our city code. Sincerely, Russ and Gina Cone, Twentynine Palms residents. And I got Vino.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation. This questions I have is, what is the present zoning of the land? And I've seen that this project would happen to create 200 jobs during the construction phase, which might sound a lot, but is really not a lot based on the area of the land. And it'll also create 300 full-time jobs over the lifespan. That boils down to just under 9 people per annum. To tie up such a big piece of land and create only 9 jobs, is that the highest and best use for the property? And then Mayor Jessamine read out a letter where you're already going to get the community upset. I am for development as long as it is responsible and it creates jobs long term, not 9 on 175 acres per this annum. That's not a lot of jobs. Thanks.
Okay, next I have Pat Flanagan.
Thank you. And I think some parts of this project, like the stable, not moving panels, is excellent. If you go to the up on 62, there's a meditation center. That is the type of solar project that they have. They actually allows plants to grow underneath it, and that's happening, and they allow animals to move through it. The biggest problem that I see, and one that needs to be carefully looked at as the project is planned, is that it is on a sand transport path, and there is a heavy project that it blows in the wind, and the dust will come to the city of 29 Palms because the wind comes from the west. And in order to stabilize that, because as soon as you move the vegetation and go over it, then that's going to move. And I have an extensive experience with this from the 3 projects that are already there in Joshua Tree, and the one on Lear Avenue, and the one on Indian Trail. And plus I've done a lot of work on projects in Lucerne Valley and in Newberry Springs. So I have background on this, and I have done here it is. I've done had the soil touch done so you can look at it. And it's not so easy to find out all the characteristics of the soil, so I've got to call into NRCS. But I have done that. So anyway, that's a biggie. We don't want to be Phoenix.
Okay, next I have Joseph Carter.
Greetings, Councilman. First off, I have to say I'm generally pretty pro-solar. The irony of having to sit here and watch them explain all the wonderful ways that they're going to keep this project out of the eye of the community, 1,400 feet away from the nearest residents. They're going to hide behind berms and everything. I wish people were treating the sewer plant with that much consideration. But I'm just saying, how much power would we get to keep?
It really depends. We are open to negotiate a PPA with the city or the citizens, but
Yes, yes.
So there's a variety of options that we're happy to discuss with the city. So there's one option, which is the most common one, which is basically it just gets offloaded to SCE and it goes wherever SCE wants it to go. It becomes part of the network. Another option is that we can negotiate a deal, and there's some regulatory things that the city needs to do to make this happen, but we can negotiate a deal that actually provides the power directly to the city. And that's something that we're interested in doing. We're very excited about that possibility, but I don't want to hide the ball. That requires a good amount of regulatory work on the city's behalf, but that's something that we'd certainly like to investigate if the city's interested.
And to piggyback off of that, I think maybe 3-4 council members remember this. When we had Lancaster come talk to us about a CCA, a community choice aggregation, we would become our own power company, and we'd have to buy power to be able to sell power, ideally speaking, at lower rates than Edison. So that's an option that's out there. Some cities have done it, but it is regulatory steps, as mentioned, to be able to create that.
So my next question was, can we use it to power a pumping station to move the treatment plant out of my neighborhood? Because if we're getting free power from a solar plant, The only expensive thing on that pumping station, I've been told, is electricity. They have a bunch. Let's let them power the thing. And as far as not wanting to have it in their neighborhood, put that in my neighborhood. Move the sewer plant out to the east. Put that in my neighborhood. Put that across the street from me. I'm fine with that. And then use that to power the pumping station.
Thank you. Okay, I don't have any more green slips. Oh.
But she wants to talk.
Okay, so somebody else wants to come? Go ahead. Come on. Yeah, I can add it to your slip.
Mayor, council members, staff. I know we don't have a choice. I don't like the area. I feel.
Okay, everybody need to be quiet or step outside.
Do I want to say I feel cheated, maybe? I mean, Harmony Acres is the better part of 29 Palms. And you want to put a 175-acre solar a half a mile, okay, so a half a mile. I don't think it's going to add to the area. I mean, when you drive down and you see all the power lines and everything on Lear off to the left, and what is it, Indian off to the left, I think it's pretty darn ugly. I mean, I'm in favor of solar, absolutely. I have solar on my house. But I don't think that if there was a way to move the area, I'm with you, to somewhere else. I know you have to make a decision to accept solar because of the state of California. So that's taken out of our hands. But do we have a say on what area this solar can go into? And I understand their point of view that it's close to the power station, and so it's going to cost them less money to do that. I totally understand that. So that's a benefit to them. I want to know what the benefit is going to be to 29 Palms. What it's going to look like, what we get, and what's the end result. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else?
My name is Terrence Latimer. I'm a resident on Indian Cove, and the only question that I have is, are there any competing bids for the area? Are there any other developers that are interested in developing that land? And are they a little bit more proactive in terms of working with the city versus seeking ways to circumvent us? Thank you.
Okay. And more green slips.
Oh, she wrote.
Susan Peplau.
Hi, all. I just really want to just take one moment to quote, and they've touched base on, E-Group has already touched base on it, but as you consider any future application, that we pay particular mind to the significant monetary investment from E-Group in our public benefits package to the city. Take note of those words and hold them to it if we're going to have a solar field sitting up there. Thank you.
Better believe it. Any more green slips? All right. Close the public, bring back. This is file and receive, right?
Yeah, so we anticipate this will be back in front of the council in 6 months to a year. So yeah, there's no vote this evening.
All right, thank you.
Can we?
Go ahead.
Yeah. I'll just be completely honest, and I'm going to be speaking for the residents, especially of 29 Palms. The idea of forcing your way into our home, I find offensive. If you want to go to the state, I'm not a friend of Sacramento.
Okay. No applause. We good. Go ahead.
I'll put my business out there. When I open my front door,
I live on 2 Mile Road on Harmony Acres, so when I open my front door, the first thing I'm gonna see if I look past a mile and a half is this solar farm. So just for y'all know that there's a council member sitting on this that is actually would be affected by this if it happens. But sitting on the council the last 7+ years, I also know California does things that we don't like, districting, sex offenders relocation, lot sizes, and stuff like that with the SP9. So I understand the predicament we're going to be in on this. And if I could look out that window and not see a solar farm when I wake up in the morning, I'd be happy. If I could look out and see a solar farm knowing that the city's going to get benefits and they're up to their word, you're going to keep some city things going on and the city can make money or benefit a lot from it, probably wouldn't be such an eyesore. So I'm not going to sit up here and say, I live in this district, I say no because I'm a council member. I will be looking at this, what benefits the city as a whole, not just my own personal perspective. So just know, citizens 29 Palms, I feel you because this is personal to me because my door is that door when I open it, I see right out there. So I right there, nose known 2 Mile Road. If you don't know where I live, you'll look it up, you'll see I'm right there. So just know that there's someone I know we're all going to fight for what's best for the city, but just know it's personal to me. It's right there out my front door. So we'll definitely be looking into this, and I hope we can work together and we don't have to go to the state because I know how that always works out. And I really don't want to spend city's money on lawyers that probably get into a dead end. I'd rather have something positive come out of this if possible. So I hope we can work together if this is going to go forward. That's all I got, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
It just sounds like a shakedown to me. Like it sounds funny. If you don't do what we tell you to do, we're going to go to the state.
Welcome to politics.
Well, go to the state.
Okay.
So I also live very close to this. I live on Sunrise, so I'll have to see it when I wake up in the morning, possibly, unless there's enough coverage to not being able to see it. My question is they're the first one that's going to come to 29 Palms, and they're going to be the first ones that are going to be okayed by the state. If we say no, what happens down the road when there's another one, and then another one, and then another one, and all of a sudden we have these huge solar farms? Not just one, but 5 or 6. We got a big city. We got a lot of land. And if this is what they're looking for with the heat, that concerns me if we are going to come up with the same thing of having them go to Sacramento and take the land from us. That is why I'm like Steve. If we can get stuff from them in writing and, make it worth our while, then it's something that I feel that we have to look at this time. But right now we're not making a decision. We just got introduced to this, but I'm going to see it too, and hopefully it's going to be, if it is approved, going to be not visible. But if it is, got to live with it.
All right. Danny?
Well, obviously, there's a list of items that the state has jamming down everyone's throat, not just 29 Palms, and everybody's going to start feeling it even worse, especially when they're going to start saying you can't sell any gas cars in California after 2035, and we're already having blackouts, and diesel trucks are going to be forced to go to electric. I sit on the air quality board. They're going to also, there's going to be electric trains. I mean, those trains that run you here with diesels, they're going to have, if they go into cities, they have to be electric. So there's going to be a huge demand for these projects, and as long as we can negotiate something that would benefit the city and leave out the state, then at least we get a benefit from it, not just being told. Because one of the examples is it's not affecting us here yet, but people don't realize that the state has said that you can build a duplex on a single family home now. You can build a fourplex on a large lot in a single family home residential area, and there's not a thing we can do about it. So there's a lot more things that they're coming down that we just haven't quite affected us yet because we're kind of far out there, but it's coming, and it's us trying to sue them is well, that's just a lot of money that I think. But if this project, if we can show that we can negotiate with it, then I think that at least then it's going to be beneficial. And trust me, I don't like it any worse. That's why I started staying in 29 Palms, because we weren't regulated by so much by the state, but pretty much they're just trying to dictate whatever we're doing. So I don't like it either.
Okay, so we're going to move to item number 12, vacation home rentals. Thank
Mayor.
you for your presentation.
As many of you know, I sell insurance, so I have an intimate knowledge of premiums regarding vacation home rentals. Although there is not an actual conflict of interest, because I would be losing money if this were to go down, I believe some people will perceive that I have a conflict. And with that, I will recuse myself from this discussion.
Okay.
You're fine.
Okay, so a little bit of background. The various provisions of the vacation home rental ordinance that the city council has asked city staff and the planning commission to study we're in the process of doing so. We have had some recent resignations from the planning commission, and so we won't have a quorum to talk about vacation home rentals at the planning commission until we have some new appointees, which may be a while. So any modifications to the vacation home rental ordinance won't be back before the planning commission in an official stance for at least several months, and then to the city council after that. So this is a request to give us policy direction. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, and very specifically on the insurance requirement, surgically looking at that, does the council, that's this question, do you want us to pause that requirement, adjust that requirement, whatever that policy direction is for that very just singular issue?
All right. Any questions for staff?
Not yet. I'd like to hear the public.
Yeah.
Gonna open it up to the public. No greens.
And one thing while we're waiting for the public to show up, just so the council is aware, all permits that are issued by the city, we are indemnified. So meaning when we issue you a building and safety permit, when we issue a vacation home rental permit, whatever permit we issue you, we're indemnified by that. So requiring insurance, a lot, doesn't change our risk level for the city.
So no green slips? Somebody speaking on this? Is it concerning number 11? I'm 12? Oh. Okay. Close it to public, bring it back to staff. Council for yeah, don't worry, we're gonna get the public comment in a minute. But right now we're on number 12. Okay.
Well, at the conference, obviously, I knew this was coming up, so I spoke to some of the Yucca Valley officials and the county. And the county, I asked the supervisor, and she checked into it. Right now, the county has no requirement for any insurance for this, the liability, and Yucca Valley has no requirement. And they were trying to think of other municipalities, and they couldn't think of any. So, I don't really. And this is the first thing when I asked Frank was about do we have any liability? And it's no. So this is almost like we're requiring something over and above, and we don't require homeowners to have even fire insurance. Their lender does, and obviously most people have umbrella insurances if they want to make sure they're covered. But at this point, I'm even willing to just say they don't need to do this at all. They have no requirement at all to have insurance, this liability insurance, because it's just another thing we're forcing somebody to do that really, if they don't need it, I mean, it's up to them. They're the ones that have to protect themselves. So I'm okay just getting rid of the whole thing.
I agree with my colleague. That's personal responsibility.
All right. Then I need a motion.
Well, I'll make the motion that we have zero requirement for liability insurance for vacation home rentals.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Councilmember Scott?
Aye.
Councilmember Mintz?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Buildering?
Aye.
Mayor Wright?
Aye.
I think
Approved
that's you said
for-
me.
What?
Nothing.
Approved 401.
Just
All right,
teasing you.
come
Cindy.
on back, Joe.
I didn't hear you.
You ain't free.
No, I did. It was.
Lieutenant had to stop you from trying to sneak out the door. Huh? Okay, future initiated council items. Anybody? Future council initiated items. Sorry.
I have none. We have a list.
Yeah, we'll check that one off.
I'd like to make a future agenda item request that we have a conversation about a youth council, and the formation of a youth council to aid in the development of our youth in the community.
A youth council.
Yeah, I second. I was trying to say the same thing.
Okay.
Well, what do you mean?
Well, youth council, they make, is like an advisory committee to the council to make recommendations as it pertains to things that youth find important to the city.
Okay, gotcha.
And I agree, we did have that at one time, and it just kind of didn't get very much interest, but now things might have changed. It's a good idea.
Yeah, I had talks with the student government and ASB at the high school when COVID hit, so it kind of knocked it off course. But the kids there are starting to get back into that government mindset, so they are very interested. I know the junior high starting theirs, revamped it, and then elementary's pushing.
Yeah.
So I think me and Cindy went to a meeting in the junior high, a couple before COVID. So there's interest. COVID kind of derailed it, but I think we're going to get back on. I
Okay.
think this will be a good year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, and plus, when I
We'll agenda-ize their conversation, so it's kind of
Yeah, so
streamlined of what they want to talk about.
We just have to be careful to getting into a discussion.
We're getting go too
Yeah.
far.
So, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we're going
Sorry.
too far.
Yeah.
Okay, we good, right? Okay, public comments. This is the time for the public to address the city council on issues within the jurisdiction of the city council that are not on this agenda. All comments are to be directed to the city council and shall not consist of any personal attacks. Members of the public are expected to maintain a professional, courteous decorum during their comments. There is a time limitation of 3 minutes per person. If you haven't already done so, please fill out name and address slips and give them to the city clerk. The city council is prohibited by state law from taking action or discussing items not included on the printed agenda. Public comments on specific agenda items will be deferred until consideration of the item on the agenda. Okay, ma'am, you ready? Alice Lawson. One more.
My name is Alice Lawson, and what I would like to talk to you about is that the roads that are being fixed over there by Oasis Elementary School, and I don't know if you're aware of this, in the last 2 weeks I've asked for four-way stops, crosswalks. We have two-way stops and no crosswalks. Was it been 2 years now? A little girl walked out in front of my car and I almost hit her, and when I turned around and went back and talked to her, she asked me, she said, "Where's the crosswalks?" We have no crosswalks for our children to walk across going home safely or coming back. And man, when you get to Amboy Road, there's not one speed limit sign that goes all the way around. You know, Sunnyvale is at, and comes back and hits Sun Valley. There's not one. I went down that last year and checked it out myself. There's nothing there to protect the children, but yeah, we're paying people a company to fix it. I talked to the gentleman. They were supposed to be here today. They didn't come. And we needed the crosswalks. You know, and it's sad. If you people have not seen the children that are in danger to go home and to and from school, you need to go watch it. I've had grandchildren leave here because of the school district. And there is no protection for them. I wish you would look at it. And the crosswalk is up by the Twentynine Palms Apartments. If you're going to make a left-hand turn, you have to get in the middle of the crosswalk to see if you're clear to go on the right-hand side, from the right. Same with on Sun Valley and Sunnyvale. And then on Amboy Road and El Paseo. There's no safety for these children at all. What they did, they put up a sign in the streets that says stop with a line under it. And oh gee, we got a new stop sign now that I know that's been there for 22 years. And they just changed it. That's all they've done. We're out to save the children, not, you know. And people do not. I have personally called the police more than once. They drive down Sun Valley and go around, and then they speed out or they burn rubber. It's crazy. We need police protection. If you call for a police officer, I had a police officer call my house and tell me he was going to make a point to be there. And he was. I came by the Mormon church and I saw it for myself. We need our children protected. We need more stop signs. And if you've ever noticed the hill going up the hill go to the high school, there's also a crosswalk, yes. But if somebody's speeding down the hill, you remember a few years back there was a man hit by a car. His cross is in the field right there. I appreciate it if you check it out, see what we're paying for. It's our taxpayer money.
Thank you. Karen Harper.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilman. My name is Karen Harper, and I represent Women of Color, and we are sponsoring the Juneteenth. And I just wanted to know if y'all set a budget for the Juneteenth. Thank you.
Okay, Carol Edwards.
Hello again. Very quickly, just following up on something that was mentioned earlier, the 29, Frank, stop smiling at me. You can make me laugh.
Sorry.
Following up on the discussion we had earlier about the 29 Palms sign, I 100% agree it needs to stay where it is currently, but I also agree that it needs to be in the plaza, the Freedom Plaza. So my question is, if private funds could be raised to create a new 29 Palm sign, would the city be amenable to that one being placed in the Freedom Plaza?
We're prohibited from responding, but you can let Frank know and then he'll ask us individually.
Cool. That was it. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Terrence Latimer.
Hello again. This was in response to the agenda item that we had a little earlier regarding events in the city. And my overarching recommendation, you know, particularly going back to Karen talking about Juneteenth and some of the other events as it relates to, you know, just the way that we're distributing funds, I think that there should be a sense of onus on the organizations that we are distributing funds to in the form of collecting data on the individual events, like number of people that attended, you know, trying to get like some qualitative data in the form of like feedback, what people think, and then perhaps working in collaboration with travel and tourism to then report on what actually took place and start developing case studies that we can then use to provide like a point of reference. Thank you.
Thank you. Joseph Carter.
Greetings again, council members. This one's going to be a little rougher. I've heard 2 councilmen complain so far that they're going to be able to see a solar farm from their houses. A solar farm. Keep that in mind. After sending out our mailer for Stop the Sewer, we heard from a number of professionals in the groundwater and wastewater industries. These are people from our local area. Councilman Scott has spoken to one of them and can vouch that this person is who he says he is and told him the same thing I'm telling you. But he's not the only one. We learned, in a nutshell, that we are currently as safe as we can possibly be from state intervention in our sewer. The current system we have is the safest, most reliable one. And we learned that messing with this safe and reliable system puts us at immediate risk of a state mandate. Acting on information from these sources, I went on High Desert Water's World of Water tour, where they show you everything about their water cycle, from pulling it out of the ground to putting it back in. I needed to confirm these facts straight from the source. The first thing I learned was how they got their mandate. All you hear in regards to our sewer plan is, we have to do this or we're going to get a mandate like Yucca. Is that what you want? Any steps we have to take to prevent that, even if we have to sacrifice your neighborhood to do it, are for the greater good. But Yucca got their mandate because they overdeveloped. Their water table dropped so badly that there was a moratorium on construction, and to save themselves, they started piping in water from Northern California without paying any attention to what they were doing. So they raised their water table much too high, up to the level where it started leaching nitrates out of the soil. Yucca solved their nitrate problem not with the sewer, but by reducing the water level back to a normal level. Now they have a state mandate to take the nitrates out, so they literally have to add nitrates into the water so they can remove them. You'd be more surprised if it wasn't California. They also have bad soil. We have great soil. They grew up faster, so many of their wells are right in the middle of their densest population. And on top of that, they let major stores and malls open up with just septic tanks. We make these folks get packaged plants, so we're not in the same kind of danger. However, as soon as you build that plant, the state shows up to monitor absolutely everything that you do. The plant would be inviting the state right into our business, and if anything goes wrong, they'll be right there to see it and issue that dreaded mandate. The whole operation is delicate and complicated. What if we can't hire a competent operator? Or if there's an earthquake, boom, mandate. To reiterate, we are currently as safe from a mandate as we can possibly be. Yes, the sewer is something we need to plan for and do the right way, because the state will be looking right over our shoulders, and if our little town messes up this huge project in any way, state mandate. I'm not just trying to save my own neighborhood now, or this town. I'm trying to save you guys, because what are you going to do when people smell this sewer from this council chamber? They're going to complain right from this microphone. You won't be able to tell people that you didn't know it would smell, because I heard that straight from the Yucca Valley plant manager's own mouth, and I know that you would have heard the same thing when you went on that tour. You know, my jaw dropped when he admitted.
3 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Jane Bingy.
One thing, I hope you guys take into consideration the repair of the 29 exclamation point. And thank you for leaving it where it is. But I think it does need some repair for the tourists that stop there. Secondly, I don't know that this is true or not, but they're putting solar plants out on 10 from, I don't know from where, but going out towards Blythe. There's lots and lots of new solar plants out there. And I've been told that people now can't get cell phone reception in that solar plant area. So I don't know if that's true or not, but it might be something you might want to look into for phone reception. But what I really want to say, it's kind of been a burr in my saddle, is Project Phoenix, Freedom Plaza. When that started, I was really hoping, Gary, that was going to be a playhouse. I could see that as a plaza where people come and they come out and they go out to dinner, they mingle, they do things there, and then they go see a play. No, Randy Council wanted a basketball court. Oh, it's going to bring lots of people downtown because their kids are all going to play basketball. I'm sorry, I don't see the benefit of that. I do not see lots of people coming downtown to go play basketball. I don't see people going to the restaurants after their kids are playing basketball or having karate or whatever goes on in there. I'm really sad. I'm saddened by the whole thing because it was to bring people downtown to shop, to go to the restaurants, and to mingle. Well, you've had a couple of events over there that you bring in food trucks for the event instead of utilizing the restaurants that are in place. I disagree with that. I disagree with having entertainment that is not appropriate for customers to sit out on the patio and have dinner. So I think you need to take a look at how you are going to use Freedom Plaza to the benefit of 29 Palms. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And next we have Ronnie Tyner. Or Tyner.
Hi, my name is Ronnie Tyner, and I live on Tamarisk Avenue, which is pretty much kitty corner to the Phoenix project. I'm seeing people speeding, people, the noise is becoming unbearable. Motorcycles screaming down the 62, the light pollution, the smell of the motor vehicles. I live here, and it's just, it's become, I'm hoping that we can preserve our native plants, which I love so much, and the night sky, and the just those things, so that's all I have to say. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay, next we're going to move to city manager update.
I'll be fast. So I had a couple things. Just wanted to talk about, some of which from the public comments. And Mrs. Hernandez and myself had today a meeting with HDL. HDL is our sales tax consultant. And one of the things we did early on in Project Phoenix is to create a geofence around sales tax generating areas. Because what we wanted to do is to see the investment that we had in Project Phoenix and what it turned into. And the latest quarter that we just reviewed today was the fourth quarter of 2022, which is October 1st through December 31st of 2022. Again, we opened Project Phoenix in March, Freedom Plaza now in March 2022. And what we saw in this geofence, which compared it from December 2021 quarter to the December 2022 quarter, those 3 months, and we've increased in activity by 20% year over year. So it was a good report that's showing progress down there. We're going to continue to look at that because that investment, because that's what you want to do, right? You want to invest into a downtown, you build it and they will come kind of thing. And we're starting to see that in the sales tax in that one quarter, and we'll continue to watch that. Another comment that was made today, very apropos, giving the time frame of the council. So we looked at some various communities, and one of the things we talk about a lot is Big Bear, and Big Bear does have an application process for events that looks at, some certain criteria. So we're looking at that as a template. So when we put it out for a call for events, that we have some kind of an application that kind of checks off the boxes of things that we potentially the council want. So we're working on that as we speak. Another topic that was brought up in public comment is neighborhood safety project. So that project isn't complete yet. So what we did is we got a grant from the HSIP Highway Safety Improvement Program. So it's federally funded, and what we looked at is all of our unsynchronized intersections within our community. And as part of that, they did the chip seal. So you'll see, throughout the community that new pavement application on some of our roads. But in addition to that, we have, I think, over 300 signs that were going to be within the city added and or replaced for safety. So it has been studied of what intersections needed to be improved with some pavement markings, with signage and et cetera. And that is going on right now. So I know Alice, I think, has left, but that is not done yet. You'll see some signs around town. You might just see the post without a sign on it. They're waiting for some of the signs to come in. It's not done yet. So it's almost, but it's close. We always like to use supply chain issues, and that's the latest thing, waiting for some of those signs to come in. Probably the last thing I have on my list here, so wastewater advisory committee meeting is going to be next Thursday, June 1st at 5:30. So that will be the next one that we have. I have directed the consulting staff to come to talk about plant operations and technologies as it relates to odor control, because that was a big topic at our last first and only advisory meeting. So that concludes my comments.
Thank you very much, and I do want to send a special shout out to Troop 229. Thank y'all for coming, and yeah, like the Boy Scouts.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, for staying the whole meeting.
Usually they're outta
Good
here.
job. All right, this meeting is adjourned.